Right, let's talk about one of the most baffling acts of geopolitical self-harm in recent British history. And trust me, that's saying something, given we've had Brexit, multiple Prime Ministerial implosions, and Liz Truss's economic experiment that lasted shorter than a supermarket lettuce. Keir Starmer, our beloved Prime Minister, is genuinely trying to give away the Chagos Islands, a strategically vital archipelago that houses one of the most important military bases in the entire world. And he's not just giving it away for free. Oh no, that would be too sensible. We're actually paying Mauritius to take it off our hands and then renting it back from them. You genuinely could not make this up if you tried. Even Donald Trump, not traditionally known for his nuanced grasp of international relations, has called this what it is, an act of stupidity. Quick favor, if you're enjoying this absolutely bonkers political circus, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Over 94% of you haven't subscribed yet. It's free, takes literally 2 seconds, and helps us keep bringing you this madness. Cheers if you did. Right, back to Britain's most inexplicable giveaway since we handed Hong Kong back to China. So let's establish the facts here, because this situation is so bizarre that you might think I'm exaggerating for comic effect, but I promise you, reality is stranger than anything I could invent. The Chagos Islands, specifically Diego Garcia, house a crucial UK-US military base. This is not some minor outpost. This is a strategically vital installation in the Indian Ocean that plays a critical role in Western military and intelligence operations. It's been used for operations in the Middle East, surveillance, naval operations, the works. This is proper, important geopolitical real estate that most countries would defend vigorously, and Keir Starmer's government wants to hand it over to Mauritius. Now, the historical background here is complicated. The Chagos people, the indigenous people of these islands, were forcibly removed by Britain in the 1960s and 70s to make way for the military base. That was unquestionably wrong, a genuine historical injustice that deserves acknowledgement and redress. Nobody's disputing that. But here's where it gets properly mental. The deal Starmer is pushing doesn't actually help the Chagosians. They're not getting their islands back. They're not getting to return home. Mauritius is getting sovereignty, a country that many Chagosians have never lived in and have no particular connection to. So this isn't even righting a historical wrong in any meaningful way. And here's the absolute kicker that makes this whole thing descend into complete farce. We're not just giving the islands away, we're paying Mauritius to take them, and then renting Diego Garcia back from them. Read that again. Britain is paying another country to take sovereign British territory, and then paying them again to rent back the bit we actually need. This is like selling your house, paying the buyer to accept it, and then renting your own bedroom back from them. It's economic and strategic insanity dressed up as post-colonial virtue signaling. Donald Trump, never one for diplomatic subtlety, posted on Truth Social, calling this an act of total weakness and great stupidity. He pointed out, correctly, that China and Russia are absolutely watching this and taking notes. When America is considering acquiring Greenland to secure strategic advantage, Britain is voluntarily giving away strategic territory and paying for the privilege. The optics are catastrophic. It makes Britain look weak, confused, and frankly incompetent on the world stage. But here's where it gets even better, in the sense that better means more ridiculously embarrassing. David Lammy, our Foreign Secretary, previously said that if President Trump doesn't like the deal will not go forward, because the UK and US have shared military and intelligence interests, and America has to be happy with any arrangement. Trump has now made it crystal clear he thinks this is stupid, so by Lammy's own logic, the deal should be dead. Yet Keir Starmer is still pushing it through, or at least trying to, before reality intervened. That reality came in the form of a rather significant legal problem. Turns out, and this is the bit where you wonder if anyone in government actually bothered with due diligence, the Chagos deal might violate a 60-year-old treaty between the UK and US that enshrines British sovereignty of the archipelago. The Conservatives pointed this out, and suddenly the Chagos Islands bill that was supposed to be debated in the House of Lords got pulled faster than a dodgy tweet from a politician's timeline. The legislation has been delayed because, whoops, it might be illegal under existing international agreements. You'd think someone might have checked that before announcing the whole deal to the world, but apparently basic legal due diligence is optional in modern British governance. Now let's talk about Keir Starmer's response to all this criticism, because this is where his character really shines through, and not in a good way. At Prime Minister's questions, when challenged about Trump's comments, Starmer made it all about himself. He claimed Trump's words were expressly intended to put pressure on me to yield on my principles, noting that Trump mentioned Chagos in the same sentence as Greenland. He framed this as some grand geopolitical test of his personal resolve, as if the fate of strategically vital British territory is really about Keir Starmer's ego and principles. Here's a radical thought, Keir. Maybe Trump genuinely cannot work out why Britain would engage in such obvious self-harm. Trump literally said, "I think they should keep it. I don't know why they're doing it. Do they need the money?" That's not sophisticated diplomatic pressure. That's genuine bewilderment that a country would voluntarily weaken its strategic position whilst paying for the privilege. It's economic and strategic insanity dressed up as post-colonial virtue signaling. The irony of Keir Starmer taking a stand on principle here is absolutely delicious when you consider his track record. This is the same Keir Starmer who delivered the Island of Strangers speech without actually reading it beforehand, didn't write it himself, and later confirmed he wished he'd never said it. This is the man who's U-turned on more positions than a particularly indecisive taxi driver. He's stood firm on approximately nothing throughout his political career, but apparently giving away strategic vital territory to a country that has no direct historical connection to its indigenous people, whilst paying them for the privilege, that's the hill he's chosen to die on. Brilliant prioritization there, Keir. Let's address the Greenland comparison that Starmer brought up, because this is actually revealing. Starmer declared that any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone, and that a trade war is in no one's interest. Lovely sentiments, very diplomatic, completely reasonable. But here's the question that absolutely needs asking. What about the Chagosians? If the future of Greenland belongs to Greenlanders, why doesn't the future of Chagos belong to Chagosians? Instead, we're handing it to Mauritius, without the indigenous people getting to return home or having any real say in their future. The hypocrisy is staggering. The strategic implications of this deal are genuinely alarming when you step back and look at the bigger geopolitical picture. We're living in an increasingly unstable world order. China is expanding its influence across the Indian Ocean. Russia is increasingly aggressive. The United States, under Trump, is demanding that allies step up and take more responsibility for their own defense and contribute more to collective security. And Britain's response to all this is voluntarily giving away a strategic asset in one of the world's most important regions. It's like watching someone sell their security system during a crime wave. Trump, whatever you think of his methods or his rhetoric, was absolutely correct about NATO contributions during Afghanistan. Some of his criticisms were overblown, yes, and the UK was absolutely on the front line alongside America, paying in blood and treasure. But his broader point about burden sharing and allies taking security seriously is valid. And here's Britain undermining that entire argument by demonstrating we apparently don't take our own strategic interest seriously enough to hold on to vital territory. The timing of all this makes it even more inexplicable. We've got leaky borders with illegal immigration at crisis levels, our armed forces are underfunded and undersized, we're not remotely self-sufficient in critical areas, our industrial capacity has been hollowed out over decades. In this context, you'd think a serious government would be focused on strengthening Britain's strategic position, securing our borders, rebuilding our military, reindustrializing, becoming more resilient and self-reliant. Instead, we're giving away strategic assets in what can only be described as an ideological vanity project that helps precisely nobody except perhaps Starmer's sense of himself as a progressive post-colonial leader. The cost of this deal is not just financial, though paying Mauritius whilst simultaneously renting back Diego Garcia is economically absurd enough. The real cost is strategic and reputational. Britain looks weak. We look confused about our national interests. We look like we don't understand basic geopolitics.